Did you know your home, business or commercial internet routers record and store all your browsing data? Even if you're using incognito mode, your browsing history can still be recorded by the routers you're connected to the internet with.
Uh-oh, spaghetti-o!
That's why a VPN is such an important thing to have, because it can block third parties from viewing your browsing data and change your IP address.
Excellent!
VirtualShield is the quickest and most user-friendly VPN in the world. They've got plans to cover yourself, your family and your business, all the way up to an unlimited device enterprise plan. Link in the description. So Jordan Peterson is currently touring Australia. He was on a show called Q&A just recently. Now, I'm no Jordan Peterson fanboy, but I think most of the stuff he says makes complete sense, and I've got a lot of respect for him. So when I saw this uppity bitch grilling him from the audience, I thought it'd be worth commenting on. Let's go.
What is your answer to young people for some of the really big problems facing humanity, like the climate catastrophe, like economic crisis, like the precarious job market?
What's your fucking answer to young people about climate change, the economic crisis and the precarious job market?
Because they just don't, you talk all this much about...
And you talk like all much so good.
Individual responsibility. Most of us are never going to be able to afford to have all of these assets to have responsibility over. So what is your advice beyond banal comments like clean your room?
Banal comments? Banal comments? Clean your room, you cunt! Okay, I'm going to calm down now. I've got to go to my brother's Bucks weekend tomorrow. It's like 2,000 fucking kilometres away, and I think I'm trying to kind of rush this a bit. Breathe, Bearing. Breathe.
Well, it's actually rather difficult to answer a question that ends with your comments are banal, politely. So, I would consider that more of an opinionated, personal and political statement than actually a question. So why don't you try reformulating that so that there's an actual question there?
What is your... So what is your advice to young people when you talk about you need to be individually responsible, but when there are things that are so far out of our control, like climate catastrophe, like the precarious job economy?
Why is it Jordan Peterson's job to solve all these things? As far as I understand, his thing about cleaning your room is about having your own house and your own life in order, so you're in a position to then go out into the world and tackle larger problems. I bet this woman's room is fucking filthy. I bet there's dirty laundry strewn all over the floor, overflowing cat litter trays and empty takeaway boxes everywhere. And she's all like, well, I don't clean my room and I'm changing the world, one homeless cat at a time. Now, what are you going to do about climate change, Jordan Peterson?
Like, the
They're not
economic
as far
crisis,
out of your control as you think.
What is your answer to
Do you think that you're worse off than
questions?
you think that you're worse off than your grandparents?
I think there are different challenges.
Do you think you're worse off than your grandparents?
I think that...
Jordan, once again, we're not going to cross-examine our questioners. So try answering the question about collective responsibility on climate change, for example. Pick one part of that, because the argument, I think, is that individual responsibility does not change the climate, does not fix the problem that needs global collective responsibility. So I think that's the core of the question. Do you have a theory about that?
This man is a psychologist. Who goes to a psychologist for advice on how to fix climate change?
Fundamentally, I'm a psychologist, and my experience has been that people can do a tremendous amount of good for themselves and for the people who are immediately around them by looking to their own inadequacies and their own flaws and the things that they're not doing in their lives and starting to build themselves up as more powerful individuals. And if they're capable of doing that, and then they're capable of expanding their career. And if they're capable of expanding their career and their competence, then they're capable of taking their place in the community as effective leaders. And then they're capable of making wise decisions instead of unwise decisions when it comes to making collective political decisions.
Got him. This guy's got no idea how to fix climate change. What a fucking Nazi.
I'm not suggesting in the least, and have never suggested, that there's no domain for social action. I'm suggesting that people who don't have their own houses in order should be very careful before they go about reorganizing the world.
Yeah, and that kind of seems fair. I don't understand why you'd have any major objection to that.
Which happens in many ways.
Oh, look, she seems to have a major objection to that.
So, can I just If a young person believes that the climate, the global warming problem on the climate is something that needs to be tackled quickly, and they can't wait until they grow up and become prime ministers to do it, do you think collective responsibility overrides individual responsibility in a huge issue like that?
No,
Okay.
I don't. I think that generally people have things that are more within their personal purview that are more difficult to deal with and that they're avoiding, and that generally the way they avoid them is by adopting pseudo-moralistic stances on large-scale social issues so that they look good to their friends and their neighbours. That's what it looks like.
Oh, you owned him, girl. Eat a bag of dicks, Jordan Peterson. I can't wait to tell my cats about this. Recession, session. Give me better times, give me better times. Recession, session.